Hello and welcome to today's webcast presentation with Balco Group. With us presenting today, we have the CEO, Camilla Ekdahl, and CFO, Mikael Grindborn. We'll do a Q&A after the presentation, and you can either type in your question in the form that is located to the right, or if you're calling in and would like to ask a question, please press star then 9. With that said, I'll give the floor to you guys. Please go ahead.
Welcome. For our first-time listeners, we make a very short summary of Balco Group, who we are. Balco Group was founded in 1987 and today consists of the companies Balco AB, Balco Altaner, TBO Haglins, Teknik, NMT, Stora Fasad, and Söderåsens Mur och Kakel. The head office in Växjö, and we have about 500 employees. We operate in mainly two segments, renovation and new build. But the core expertise is in the renovation area, and it's to replace old balconies with a new one and make it a glazed balcony. However, the group has a broad offering of balcony solutions, including both open and glazed balconies, as well as complementary offers, such as facade renovations. We are the market leader in Scandinavia, with the key markets Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, but we also have a strong challenger positions in mainly UK and Germany. All glazings of a balcony result in energy savings. Simpler glazings provides 5 to 10% energy savings, while Balco's patented glazing provides a documented energy savings of 15 to 30%. Facade renovations with additional insulations gives an energy savings of about 10%. That said, we go into the quarter one and some highlights, and we actually had the best quarter one revenue as ever, with a net sales increase of 13% up to 326 million SEK. However, we also made a cost-saving program, and that was of course depending on the tougher market conditions we have seen on the markets, where we have some pending order intake and also some lower profitability. We will provide savings of 50 million SEK annually and have a cost-affecting comparability of 5 million in the quarter. On this cost-saving program, we have focused on indirect manning, so we are keeping all our operational resources, so we are well prepared for taking new order intake when it comes. About 90% of Balco's turnover comes from the renovation segment, and here we see now that the customers are getting more used to the higher interest rate. And this is especially for the Swedish markets, where we have had a very low interest rate before. Still, there are some concerns about it, of course, because the interest rate increases are not over yet, but we start to see the end of the increases. So we are confident that the order intake will pick up again when we see that we are stabilizing the interest rates. We come to the acquisitions. We have made one acquisition during the quarter. That was NMT Montageteknik in Norden, which has a turnover of the last financial year of 49 million SEK. NMT is a turnkey company, and the company has been one of Balco's strongest competitors in northern Sweden. And I will come back later in the presentation and talk more about NMT and what they can contribute to the group.
Yeah.
So let's go to financial figures.
Yeah, I'll run you through some financial figures for the quarter. And as mentioned, good net sales growth and stable profitability. Our net sales increased by 13% to 326 million. Of this, acquired group was 3%, currency effect was 1%, and organic growth 9%. All the organic growth though came from price increases, so the volume increase was not there. So all coming from price increases. Our adjusted profit was 28 million, up from 27 last year, corresponding to an adjusted operating margin of 8.7%. Where we had 9.2 last year. The order intake amounted to 245 million, and the order backlog is now 1,241,000,000, roughly 300 million less than a year ago. Profit after tax amounted to 14 million, corresponding to earnings per share of 0.68 SEK. Operating cash flow, as normally in Q1, was quite low, and it was negative by 11. It was negative 14 last year. So quite normal for a first quarter, but normally has the worst lower cash flow of the quarters. Renovation segment, strong growth in net sales. It grew by 21% to 299 million, and it corresponded to 92% of the total net sales in the quarter. Order intake in the quarter amounted to 199 million. It was 81% of the total order intake in the quarter. Adjusted operating profit amounted to 26 million, down from 33 last year, corresponding to an adjusted operating margin of 8.6%, down from 9.8% last year. Order backlog for the renovation segment is now 1,091 million, and it corresponds to 88% of the total order backlog. Go to the other segment, new build segment. Here we had a good order intake in the UK market. Net sales in the quarter amounted to 26 million, down from 42 last year. Order intake amounted to 46 million, more or less the same as last year, where we had 52 million, and it corresponded to 19% of the total order intake. Adjusted operating profit for the quarter was 1.4 million SEK, down from 2.5, corresponding to an adjusted operating margin of 5.2, down from 5.9 last year. Order backlog for the new build segment is 150 million, and it corresponds to 12% of the total order backlog. And have a look at our financial position and balance sheet. It's still strong, and we are prepared for doing more acquisitions. At the end of the quarter, our equity amounted to 746 million, with an equity ratio of 57%. Net debt to EBITDA, including leasing debt, was 1.2, the same as last year, and excluding leasing, it's 0.9. And during the quarter, the acquisitions of both Arotex that we made in end of last year and NMT Montageteknik was completely then paid for. We still have acquisition headroom. We have a banking agreement with Danske Bank that is valid to October 2024, with a sustainability-linked revolving credit facility of 510 million and an overdraft facility of 75 million. And to have a look at our financial targets, Balco has a group target that we should grow our sales by 10% per year. Looking at the last 12 months, we have a revenue growth of 18%. We also have a profitability goal that our earnings per share should grow by 20% per year. Here we are not so good. Our earnings per share has decreased by 16% the last 12 quarters. Our capital structure says that our net debt to EBITDA shouldn't exceed 2.5, other than temporarily. Here we are on a good level, 1.2 including leasing debt and 0.9 excluding leasing debt. Our dividend policy is that we should distribute 30 to 50% of our profit after tax to our shareholders. And the proposed dividend for 2022 is 1.5 SEK per share, and it's 40% of profit after tax. We also have a sustainability goal that more than 30% of the group's sales should provide 30% energy savings to our customers and be compatible with the EU taxonomy. Here we see that 9% of the sales is providing 30% energy savings to our customers, but 61% of the sales is compatible with the EU taxonomy. So all kind of glazing in renovation segment gives an energy saving. It is like an isolation element to the house, and therefore is within the EU taxonomy. And some sustainability updates. We see sustainability as a prerequisite for our long-term profitability. And we are working quite strongly with this to continue reducing environmental impact, offering more sustainable materials, improving waste management, and providing opportunities for our customers to reduce their energy consumption. And this has improved our ESG rating with Sustainalytics. It went down from 20.8 2021 to 18.7 last year. And we are now ranked as a low-risk company, and actually among the 20% of all companies in the world with the lowest ESG risk rating. We have also worked and improved our CO2 equivalent per worked hour. We have a goal that until 2025, compared to 2019, we should reduce it by 35%. And looking at Scope 1, we have already reached that goal. We have reduced the CO2 equivalent per worked hour by 37% in Scope 1. And looking at Scope 2, we have reduced it by 30%. We have also had good improvements in our accident rate. That is measured by number of accidents at work per 1 million hours worked. And it reduced from 13 in 2021 down to 8.2 in 2022. And over to you, Camilla.
Yeah, to the market update. So as I said before, we can now see here, especially in Sweden, that our customers are getting more and more used to the higher interest rates. However, there's still uncertainty about where the top will be. So we still see that some of them are waiting. And what they're mainly waiting for is both, of course, the increase that we are now expecting here in April, but also what will happen in June. And that, as you know, is a big discussion, how much the increase will be in June. So we still see some waiting on the market. But as we know, we are in the renovation segment, as we said, and the pent-up demand is not disappearing. So we still see that the interest in our products are really big, and we have a lot of meeting with our customers. And we also have found some solutions for them to help them to take the decisions here short term. And we are very confident that the order intake will take place again when we have seen the top, so to say, of the interest rate here in Sweden. On other markets, we are not at all as affected as we are in the Swedish market regarding the order intake. Both in UK and Germany, we are less affected by the interest rate increases. We can also say like that the customers that we are meeting here in Sweden, since we are working with renovation, are old associations. And the old tenant-owned associations, they have a very strong financial positions in many times. And that means that they can take the balcony investments without making a very, very big increase on the monthly cost for the residents. And that is, of course, helping us in the discussions we have with our customers. We have also parallel here taken some of our companies that will focus more on the publicity-owned companies, because here we see that they continue to invest in renovations. And some of them have actually increased it during this time. So some of our balcony companies are more focusing now on the publicity-owned companies. And as I said, the new building for social housing in UK and Germany has still a good demand, and we have very good products for these markets. As you have seen, we still have a very good financial situation, and therefore, of course, we continue also to look on acquisition. And acquisitions are an important part of our strategy. And the experience from our previous acquisitions has given us a clear and structured process for how we successfully can integrate and develop the acquired companies. And we are looking for European balcony companies or with other companies that can complement our green transformation product offering. there are some other things that is important for the companies that we are looking at, and that means that they need to have a very strong position in a market niche. They should be profitable, well managed. Their business philosophy and culture needs to be in line with our culture we have already. The business model should be sustainable, and we also want to continue commitment from the management and key employees in the companies. And of course, we can offer them back our financial stability. We can offer the cooperation and the knowledge sharing we have in Balco Group. And we continue with the acquired company that they should continue to work as standalone companies. And we are doing synergy effects in between us. And then we look on the acquisition we made here in Q1, which was NMT. And this is a little bit different from what we have, so to say, in our core strategy. Because if you take from the background here, NMT was founded in 2016, and they offer turnkey contracts in balcony renovation in northern Sweden, and mainly to the tenant-owned housing associations. They have 11 full-time employees and a turnover of 49 million SEK during the most recent operating year. And they were a very strong competitor to Balco in northern Sweden. They didn't have any own products, but they were selling other products, and they had a very strong competitor to Balco. Now, when we have acquired them, we see that we will integrate both their assembly and project organization, and these will be fully integrated with Balco, which is a little bit different from what we usually do with our acquired companies. But this is depending on that NMT didn't have their own products from the start. So therefore, we will integrate them, and we will create a hub in northern Sweden together, NMT together with Balco's resources. And that is because we see it's very important for us that we are very close to the customer. We have seen that their success in NMT's business is really the very good relationships they have with the customers in the north of Sweden. So we see NMT as a very strong contribution here ahead in our group. If we take some concluding remarks, as we said, the turnover is the best ever for the first quarter and decreased by 13% to 326 million SEK with adjusted profit margin of 8.7%. We have made the cost-saving program, and that will give us a cost saving of about 50 million SEK annually and has an effect of the comparability on the result of 5 million SEK in the quarter. And as we have talked about several times, we are waiting now for the top on the interest rate increase that will come down. When we have reached the top, we can see a stabilization on the market, and we expect also then the order intake to increase more. The outlook ahead is once more again the renovation. We are working in the renovation. The interest is there, the need is there, so we need the stabilization. And also, once more again, we have a very strong financial position, which means that we can continue to grow through selective acquisitions that strengthen our market position, both in mainly in existing markets, but both in Sweden and in other markets outside Sweden. And that was all from us. Questions?
Thank you very much, Camilla and Mikael, for that presentation. And now we'll open up for the Q&A section. If you have a question for Camilla or Mikael, you can either type it in the form that is located to the right, or if you're calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand. And we'll start with a question that came in here. We'll take the number ending in 31. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Niklas Färm with SEB Equities.
Hey, Niklas.
Hi.
Hey, hi. My first question would be, it would be very helpful if you could just walk us through the composition of the savings program that you launched in connection with today's results. I assume because there are limited sort of non-recurring costs associated, this is not primarily staff-related reductions. But please, if you could give us an idea of where you will save 15 million.
Yeah, we have done another cost reduction program, and it's coming from 10 people had to leave the company, but they have already left now, and we have taken the cost for these, for the remaining salaries of these 10 people. Then we had another 5 people who quit for themselves, but they have decided not to replace. So in total, it's 15 people less, and so it comes from savings in salaries, all of them.
Very clear. Thank you for that. While we're on the topic, can I also ask you to update us on the ongoing savings program, the 20 million program, and what were the actual contributions to these Q1 results today from that savings program, please?
Yeah, we have seen that we have the expected result from this. So these people, the costs were already taken in December. So we have a saving of roughly 5 million coming from this during this quarter.
Excellent. Thank you again. Can I ask you, I've been looking and maybe I've missed it, but what's the M&A contribution to Q1 order intake, please?
We have acquired order intake from NMT of 30 million.
Excellent. Thank you. And and then maybe I can come back later into the call, but if I may, just one final question. Would it make sense, you think, to assume that the decline that we now obviously are looking at in terms of orders, for rather obvious reasons, would it make sense to assume that this decline would sort of further accelerate into current trading in Q2 and perhaps even in Q3 compared to in Q1? Or should we expect something more similar to Q1 for that matter?
Our expectation is not that it will be worse in quarter 2. We expect that we will be on the same level or better.
All right. Right. Thank you so much. And if possible, I may come back later into the call.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take the next question calling in with a number ending in 23. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone, this is Sofia starting from Carnegie.
Hello,
thank you for
Sofia.
your presentation. Hi. Thank you for your presentation and great question from the previous speaker. I had an add-on question on order intake. I was curious if when you have your discussions with the tenant associations, do you recognize any new consumer preferences? For example, if I recall it correctly, you have roughly 50-50% sales glazed balconies versus open balconies. Has this changed during the last quarters or during this first quarter in 2023? Could you see any changes in consumer preferences? My first question.
I would not say that we see any difference in the preferences regarding a glazed or open balcony in itself. But what we have seen is that on the glazed balconies that we are selling, the customer may not so to say add on everything on it. Before we could be that we have roller curtains, you have all extra on it, so to say. Now it's more maybe that you go back to a little bit more the basic, what you actually need to have. And other things, what is good to have, that can be that we are selling it in a later stage instead. So for taking the decision, and that is also how we are going to the market, but make it easier for them to take the decision to make the investment. We are trying to reduce the first investment cost for them.
All right. Thank you. And also, when you talk about this pent-up demand, and you say that many of the tenant associations pauses their investments, but if maybe this is a tricky question, but with all the tenant associations that you discussed, if you would make a rough high-level split of how many would actually pause their investment and make this Balco method, or how many will actually do like more of a quick fix renovation of their balcony, or how many could actually wait for almost like for a longer period of time, for example, like 3 years. If you would do the split of all this pent-up demand, would you say that perhaps 80% will pause their investment and go through like a Balco method later on, or like only 10% will do a quick renovation fix? What is your take when discussing with all the tenant associations?
Yeah, it's of course different versus who you talk to, because it's depending on, as I said, depending on the finance they have in the tenant association, owned associations. If you have good finance, which most of them have, that we are discussing with, they are rather waiting and then wait for the right time to make, so to say, decision and to make it really as they want. If they have worse finance situation, of course, then they need to go for the renovation, the other method. But it's very difficult to say. I don't dare actually to say any figures here. But it's more depending on which kind of how the good financial status they are in.
And I will also say how bad their slabs and balconies are today. If we need to do a really big renovation of it, it's normally cheaper to wait and do it through the Balco method. Yeah. While if you can do just some simple renovation that lasts for another 10 years or 15 years, then perhaps they go for the quick.
If the finance situation is not there.
If the financial situation is not there.
Yeah.
All right. And also, I was curious about this quite small market for you, the UK market and Germany. But for example, first UK market, what would you say is the trigger for you in the UK market at the moment, or current trading? And also in Germany, it seems like Germany has the largest renovation market. So how are you working to reach this large renovation market in Germany?
If we start with UK, we're working on a new building there. So there, of course, the amount of new build households, that is what is driving us there. And we see that there is still a big demand in UK for new houses. And there we work a lot with also projects to the social housing. And that is, of course, needed. And it's more common, it's very common there that they are placing a balcony on the social houses there. So that's the driving force there. In Germany, we have seen also there, they have a big demand for new build. So we have actually started to implement the products that we have seen that is successful in UK. We're starting discussing them in Germany. We also have another product which is also good for new building industry, which we are discussing in Germany. So we have some ongoing discussion with new building also in Germany, because we see also there's a really big demand for building new households. But in Germany also we have the renovation, and then we are mainly connected to the VG market, where they have already put money, so to say, into the foundations for doing the balconies. So there we also see that is also the trigger that we are working with that client group. Because if you look on the tenant-owned client group in Germany, you have a little bit similar situation as in Sweden. They are a little bit postponing, they're a little bit more waiting. But the other ones, both the new building and these Wohngebau, they are really doing their investments continuously.
All right. And a final question here regarding what is your ambition with Northern Sweden? What are your expectations in order intake, for example, maybe the second half of 23 and the beginning of 24? And also, when you mention a new hub in northern Sweden, should we expect like a new production facility in northern Sweden, or
No.
what do you mean by a new hub?
With a new hub, we mean that we have office in Sundsvall, which you can of course always discuss if that is north of Sweden or not. But because we have a big part of Sweden that is left, but it's still, so to say, that is where MNT has their office, and we're expecting that to be the hub. When we mean a hub, that is connected to designers, project managers, and assembly organizations, business manager, and sales. So no production.
All right. But you expect, what is your expectation on sales growth in northern Sweden?
We don't give any predictions, so to say, about sales growth in different parts of the country, but we know that we know we have a big, so to say, interest in north of Sweden. We know that there is also new building industry coming up. We are not into the new building industry yet, but we might be if we are interested in it. So we don't want to give any predictions about sales income in different areas of Sweden.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank you.
And then we have phone number calling in ending with 31, raising his hand, so we'll give you the word.
Thanks for letting me back into the call. It's Niklas Färm with SB Equities again. 3 more questions, please. Could you give us an update on sort of cost inflation and the impact on sourcing and cost of goods? The way I read your comments in the report is that it's mostly mix effects and other effects perhaps that has impacted the gross margin. But for the record, would you care to just give us a quick update on sourcing environment, please?
Yeah, if we look compared to end of last year, it's stable on the material side. Steel is stable, and also aluminum and glass. So, but of course, compared to 1 year ago, we have seen material increases, and that has mostly been compensated krona per krona. So that has, of course, an effect of a total gross margin compared to last year. But if we look at the last 2 quarters, Q3 and Q4 last year, we are on the same or better level on gross margin, and we have also more or less the same mix as we had end of last year. We expect for the current situation, this level of roughly 22% of gross margin should be perhaps the standard for the coming quarters.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. Can I also say, I mean, you really maintain a strong balance sheet, of course. But I would just be interested in if you could update us on the pending earnout payments in next year relating to RK and Stora Fasad. I think it sums up to about 30 million Swedish krona according to the original disclosure.
Yeah, the original was roughly 30 million, as you said, but we made as you perhaps remember, in December, new calculations. So right now we expect roughly 20 million.
Excellent. Thank you. And final question. I'm obviously aware that you have changed financial targets since a while back, but your old or previous margin targets of generating EBIT preferably above 13%. Is there any reason? I mean, given the acquisitions you have made since then, and the change in the overall group structure, is there any reason for why that margin level would have changed if you would have made a margin target today, for any reason?
As a matter of fact, we are discussing this and probably will do an update also of a new margin target at the end of this year. So we'll come back on that.
Yep. Excellent. That was all for me. Thank you so much for all the questions and all the answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the next question that has come in. The next question is regarding your gross margin levels, where you have commented that it will weaken. So the question is, compared to what level?
Yeah, if you say compared to last year, of course it went down from more than roughly 25% down to 22%. But that's mostly because of a mix change that we sell from other markets, and also other companies in the group has grown more than the margins in that Balco AB, Sweden and Norway have the highest gross margin, and their share of the total sales has gone down, and we expect it to be lower in the long run, where they're done more acquisitions. So we expect more perhaps future margin, at least looking at this year, to be around the level of the adjusted gross margin of this period, roughly 22%.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the next question. What are the geographical trends in the order intake?
As it has been, if we look the recently quarters, as we have said before, is that we have had a good order intake both in Germany and in UK. So they have been, so to say, following a good pace. And the reduction in order intake has been mainly Sweden, but also Norway. So Sweden and Norway has been, so to say, less order intake, and where we have been struggling a little bit more with the discussions about the interest rates.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take the last question here. What are the main risks facing Balco Group, and how are you managing these risks to protect shareholder value and ensure sustainable growth over the long term?
The main risk would, of course, be if we see that if we look on the Swedish, because Sweden is still a very, very important market for us. And the main risk would, of course, be if we see that the inflation rate is not going down at all. We are keeping a very, very high interest rate, and that they increase the interest rate even more after June. And when I say even more, I mean a lot more. Because otherwise, the most of the discussions we have right now with our customers is that they are, as I said before, they are expecting an increase in April. They are also expecting an increase in June. So that is not, so to say, giving any problem for us, mainly that it's postponing things. But of course, there will be could be a problem for us if that is not affecting and they continue to increase even more, and I mean much more than. What we are doing to prevent it is that we are working, and therefore we are working with the cost structure, of course, to reduce our costs. We are working with different tools to our salespeople, how they can help the customer to take decisions, how we can help them with the financing, and also to show them that quite often they don't need to increase their monthly cost as much as they expect from the start before we look on the balance sheets. That is how we work with it. And of course, also, as we said, that some of our companies are now also going more into the social housing. Before we have been very, very heavy on the tenant-owned side, but we are also having companies now in our group which have very good products for the social housing. So we are a little bit splitting out, so to say, now to make sure that we are not 100% depending on tenant-owned. But that is still our big customer market, of course.
Okay, thank you very much, Camilla and Mikael, for being here presenting today and answering all of our questions. And a big thanks to all of you who called in or typed in your questions and followed along Balco Group's Q1 report. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and until next time, thank you and goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye.